Sarah from NHCSR here. I'm going to start sticking these field reports into the Serious Grower feed during the growing season to give you some real-time reports from our extension specialists in New England, New York, and the Mid-Atlantic states. Look for links to resources from extension educators in your region, and do pay close attention to where some of these reports are coming from because we're covering a wide region. Reach out if you want help connecting with an extension specialist in your area, and we will get you hooked up. All right. Top line reports for August 12th, 2026. More heat and moisture mean more disease symptoms showing themselves across the region. For example, alternaria leaf spot is a common fungal disease affecting brassica crops. In these conditions, the pathogen that causes this disease will release spores after exposure to high humidity. The first symptoms to appear are pin-sized black specks found on the leaf surface or stem. Those specks enlarge concentrically, creating a distinct target spot or bullseye lesion with a yellow halo. These lesions are visible from both sides of the leaf, and the necrotic lesions can easily tear. Severe infections on leaves can cause leaves to fall away from the plant. You'll see black sooty spores produced on the surface during extended periods of high humidity, which is what we've been seeing. Symptoms are typically seen on older, lower leaves first, but you can also start seeing these symptoms on cauliflower curds or broccoli heads in addition to those leaves. So once you get to that part of the year, you'll start seeing that. Very common. We're also hearing many reports of weed management failures, and plenty of folks are thinking about harvesting leafy green crops and beet crops a little earlier than anticipated in order to avoid weed seed rain that could make life worse for many years down the road. We want to think about our weed seed banks. We suspect that many of these failures in the region could be explained by failures in pre-emergent herbicides during the dry conditions that a lot of the areas of the region experienced this year. So soil moisture is critical to the success of using some of these products, these pre-emergent herbicides, because they don't technically prevent germination. They actually disrupt the cell division or shoot development of seedlings as they germinate. So if there's not enough soil moisture at the right time, that herbicide just simply sits there dormant on the soil surface, and it's completely useless while weed seeds sprout right past them. So pre-emergent herbicides are applied to the top of the soil, like right on the surface, but we know that weed seeds will germinate in the top 1 to 2 inches of the soil profile. So that water, not only is it really important to delivering it to that seed as it's germinating, but it'll also carry it down in the soil column to where the seeds are germinating. If that water doesn't carry that chemical to absorb into the seed, it'll just sit on the top of the soil where it can break down from sunlight, photodegradation, and some herbicides will even volatilize. They'll turn to a gas and evaporate away. So we suspect a lot of these failures are due to very dry spring conditions, followed by luxurious, wet, hot summer conditions that we're experiencing now. Corn earworm numbers continue to climb, and this is definitely corn earworm season, so your sweet corn growers are paying attention. This is a typical time of year as we're seeing both local populations growing and migratory populations coming north with summer weather patterns. So monitoring is important from that because sometimes they're literally falling out of the sky. While most regions continue to see low European corn borer numbers, this seems to be the trend historically. There have been certainly a few pockets of high adult European corn borer moths captured in traps, particularly those baited with the New York strains pheromone lure. This is common to New England states. This peak in the second generation of European corn borer may be more of a threat to other crops than corn, as these caterpillars have been reported to infest more than 200 crop species. This includes flowering ornamental crops, cannabis, hops, potatoes, beans, peas, as well as fruiting crops like tomato and especially pepper. I feel like we see European corn borer impacting pepper crops. Speaking of pepper, we are also starting to hear reports of pepper maggot larvae. So pepper maggot larvae, that's kind of redundant, in pepper fruits. So pepper maggot, it's pretty rare, but the folks who are dealing with pepper maggot are often facing an uphill battle. So please reach out if you have issues with this wherever you are. We actually really want to hear from you. It's a very charismatic fly. It's a very attractive, pretty fly that lays its eggs in developing pepper fruit. So they have been active, these adults, for the past month or so up in New England states. They've been ovipositing here in developing pepper fruit. Females pierce a small hole in that developing fruit to lay their eggs inside, and that will leave a tiny pinhole or maybe even a faint surface dimple on that fruit, so it can go unnoticed. So depending on the timing, the resulting larvae can sometimes make their way to a harvested, marketed, and sold pepper. Those larvae, the maggots, they're legless. They are whitish to yellow, and they're about half an inch long at their oldest. They'll have a small, dark red dot on the rear end. So, like I said, depending on timing, we know that larvae will tunnel through the internal flesh of these peppers. They'll eat the flesh and the seeds for about 2 weeks before chewing an exit hole, dropping to the soil, and overwintering as pupae. They have just one generation a year, but affected sites can see populations get really out of hand over time. So look for a link to my conversation with Ali Reza Shahuki at UMass for about more on his work looking at pepper maggot and the work he's doing to improve monitoring strategies as well as some management options. We're hearing reports of pith necrosis and potential timber rot in tomato in a few locations around the region. Make sure to always get proper confirmation from your local diagnostic lab if you're seeing something that you think is new. But knowing how to spot these diseases from the usual suspects that we see in tomato this time of year could be important because they come with their own unique challenges. Pith necrosis is caused by multiple soil-borne species of bacteria in the genus Pseudomonas. It's mostly a concern for our greenhouse and high tunnel growers right now, but we can see this impact field-grown tomatoes if the conditions are right. Hot, humid, you know it, you love it. There are currently no tomato varieties resistant to pith necrosis, nor any chemical treatments available. So preventing this disease is really, really important. So identifying it if you see it. I put a link from NC State in the show notes, but here are the symptoms to look out for at early stages of infection. Young leaves become chlorotic and lower leaves begin to wilt and yellow. Sounds like a typical disease symptoms. But we'll start seeing dark, brown, irregular streak-like lesions appearing on the surface of the peduncles, leaf petioles, and stems. Fruit might develop small, round, black spots, but eventually become surrounded by soft rot. Even if there are no external symptoms of infection, the pith and vascular system may appear discolored. So that's where it gets its name. If you slice that stem longitudinally, it might reveal a hollow, discolored, or chambered pith. Adventitious roots also sometimes developed from that cracked stem. If you're seeing stuff like that, make sure to send in a sample to your local diagnostic lab and get that confirmed. Timber rot, also known as white mold of tomatoes, can also mean trouble for you in the future because this pathogen is known for a very robust overwinter structure called sclerotia that can stay viable in the soil for several years. First signs of disease in the plants might include infected stems that turn a light brown color and dry up and become brittle. If the main stem is infected, the entire plant will collapse, looking like a wilt or a root rot issue. So under hot, humid conditions, that is when you might see white fungal growth developing on the surface of those stems. That's where the name white mold comes from. In some cases, sclerotia will develop on the outside of the stem, but breaking open that stem, that brittle stem, will reveal numerous black sclerotia. That's no bueno. If you do come up with this, if you see those sclerotia, all infected plants or plant material need to be removed immediately and disposed of properly. So check out more resources about that. All right, that is it for this week, but please let me know if you want to hear more about any else. And thanks for listening.